welcome back to another episode of The Book Bitch. This time I'm going to be reviewing The Prom Queen by RL Stine. At least I'm assuming it's by RL Stine. I mean, it could be one of the many, many Fear Street books that were not actually written by him, as he had a ghostwriter for many of the, I think it's 84 original Fear Street books. I know for a fact that he wrote most of the actual series ones, like I think the Cheerleader trilogy was mostly actually him. The Fear Street sagas was entirely him. The Fear Street saga trilogy, I'm pretty sure, was entirely him. But beyond that, it's really a crapshoot on whether or not you're actually getting an RL Stine or if you're actually getting a ghostwriter. And this is actually stuff that I've researched, by the way. It's not just, I'm not pulling this off the top of my head. Stine is actually one of those authors that's really important to me because he's kind of what I grew up with. He's really the reason that I'm such an avid reader, or, I was back in the day before required reading in high school really kind of wore me down and made me abandon reading for months and months and months at a time. So, my poor review channel has nothing at all for months, and then I'm back for like 5-6 episodes, and then I get sick of reading again. But that's not happening this time. Anyway, Stine's kind of the reason behind that. When I was about 6 years old, or 7, possibly. And I know I was very, very small. That's all I remember, really. As me and my mom went to a used bookstore that I think they were just having some kind of a sale. They might have been having a going out of business sale or a moving sale. But they were having some kind of a sale. And my mom was like, okay, let's go check this used bookstore out. That was the first and last time we went because the location closed. And I think they moved down into a quote-unquote bad part of Minneapolis. The parts where, generally suburban white people feel really uncomfortable. That's a quote-unquote bad part of Minneapolis, according to my parents. But I digress again. I'm getting off on tangents, and we don't need to be making a hugely long, podcast-esque video here. Anyway, we went to this little, proto half-price bookstore. I mean, it was very small. It reminded me kind of Drury Lane Books up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, in size, because that's also a very small bookstore. It's not seriously small, but it's pretty freaking small. And this one was really small, and it had, a very, very small kids section, and then a teen section. Well, at 6, I was already reading the Animorphs series and a bunch of other, older kid or teenager books. I was reading anything I could get my hands on, and my parents were pretty much enabling that because I was such an avid reader, and they really wanted to make sure that I would pursue that in my, future life. So I really, 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 really read anything I could get my hands on. And so when I went into the teen section, which was, I think, 2 shelves of this bookstore, my mom didn't bat an eye, because she figured, worst case scenario, she'll read the back of the book, and if it's too grown up, she'll tell me no. Well, I found this book, and I want to say it was called New Year's Party or New Year's Eve Party. It was a Fear Street super chiller, and I remember being drawn to it because the chick on the front cover just looked absolutely evil, and it was beautiful. I wanted to know more. She was at some kind of a party, and she was wearing this really pretty, red velvet dress, and I was kind of smitten by, the cover art, but I picked that out, and I showed my mom. She read the back cover, and she looked at me, and she's like, are you really sure you want to read this? It looks like it's going to be kind of scary. And I was like, yeah, I want this book, Mom. I want this one. and I think I bought another Fear Street at the same time, but I don't remember what the hell it was. It wasn't another Super Chiller, it was just a regular Fear Street. But I mean, like, these books were like $1.50 each. Back when books were like generally $6 a piece. I kind of miss those days, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that books are kind of rising in price to go with inflation. As an author, you know, we kind of need to make sure that people are making a living writing. But anyway, I digress again. That shopping trip started a, 5-year, 6-year infatuation with RL Stine's work. I was utterly hooked. I read almost the entire series. I didn't really touch the Fear Street Sagas books, and I didn't really touch the amusement park books, because there was like an amusement park trilogy, and there was also, I think, like a knockoff of Stephen King's Christine in a trilogy too. I didn't touch that either, mostly because I couldn't find them, but also because I really didn't give a shit about a fucking killer car. But, I mean, I read so many R.L. Stine books as a child. Almost every Fear Street book. Probably a good 60 of them. And I owned almost every Fear Street book. Probably a good 60 of them. I would borrow what ones I couldn't find in stores from the library, and I would, borrow them again and again and again. I probably single-handedly wore out a bunch of these library books. And this one is one that I had, I'm pretty sure, originally bought, like, third or fourth trip to one of these little half-price bookstores. Like, I'm pretty sure I bought this one, like, third or fourth trip, and honestly, Prom Queen is not one of my favorites. Like, a good 6.5, 7 minutes into this review, I dropped that bombshell on you. Prom Queen was never one of my favorites. You've seen how I've reacted to predictability in the past. Well, it wasn't always that way, but I've always been anti-extremely predictable things. Even in series that are mostly written by ghostwriters where every plotline is so predictable you can figure it out within the first 5 or 6 minutes. Even with that, I figure you really should give kids a little more credit and you should be a little more creative in what you're doing. And while this one did have a little creativity as to who the murderer actually ended up being, if you read it as anything older than like a 10-year-old, you're gonna figure that out right fucking away. And it's got too many characters. It suffers extremely from having too many characters to try to keep up with. It also suffers from that thing that so many young adult books really honestly suffer from. And I try not to bring it up because I really don't have much of a preference either way. Because if you write, any point of view you write, any point of view, first person, second person, third person, whatever, any of them, as long as you write it well, it can work for your story. Any fucking tense, any fucking POV can work for your story if you use it right. And in this one, it really wasn't used correctly. It was used very lazily, and it was used kind of obviously to show just, like, continuity between other Fear Street books and this one, because I'm pretty sure at least half of them, if not all of them, are first-person past tense or first-person present tense, which, honestly, a lot of young adult books are just all across the board, but in Fear Street, it's written very lazily. Even though, again, like in last review, when the teenagers are written good, they're written very good. Okay, I know. I just fucked up grammatically. When the teenagers are written well, they're written very well. And no, I'm not editing this out of this because really I don't give enough of a shit. I have been battling my depression for almost the entire runtime of this reboot of this goddamn series, and it's been kicking my ass. So putting in even this little amount of effort is honestly almost asking too much. I really kind of almost wish I was filming this because I have my fucks I give box right here, and I will open it for you. You can hear it, see? That's my fucks I give box. I'm opening it. Oh no, it's empty. Huh. Imagine that. But seriously, The Prom Queen is a Fear Street book about a girl named Lizzie and 4 girls that she's quote unquote friends with that she's not really all that great of friends with. But her and these 4 girls all get picked as not like candidates or whatever for prom queen. And then they start disappearing or being murdered. And it's just really super fucking creepy, guys, because it totally ties in with a couple murders that have happened in Shadyside recently. And oh no, is it the same murderer? We find out at the end, or we find out at the first girl's disappearance who the actual killer is, and it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of left open-ended even for the last or for the first murder as to whether or not the actual revealed murderer at the end was the one that murdered that first girl that wasn't actually like part of the story beyond just being murdered and found dead in the Shadyside Woods or the Fear Street Woods or whatever. But it's kind of left open-ended with that, and I kind of like that. Like, that's a really nice element. And honestly, like, the writing, while lazy, isn't that terrible. Like, it is at least on par with other professionally published books of that time, which, is to say I don't really have any outlet or, guideline or anything for what self-published books might have looked like in the early 90s. But, I mean, this fucking book is 24 years old. It was published in, like, March of goddamn 1992. It's ancient. It's very, very old. Very, very old. This book is seriously only 4 years older than I am. It's a very old book. And its age really shows because nobody has cell phones or anything. And that's honestly, like, reading an older young adult book. It's wild to see these teenagers, like, flipping shit over having their own phone line in their room. Because I can kind of relate. I can kind of remember that. I never had my own phone line in my room. And I didn't get my own cell phone until I was in 9th grade. But, I can kind of relate to some of these weird symbols of freedom that these Fear Street kids all seem to cherish, which it's weird. I would recommend, if you can find a copy, or if I don't even know if this one's available on Kindle. If it's even available on Amazon or whatever, I'll link in the description down below. But, I mean, if you can find a copy of this at, like, your local half-price books, or, a thrift shop, any kind of discount bookstore, if you can find one online on eBay or something, I would say read it just for the nostalgia. If you can turn your brain off for a few hours and just kind of be a stupid teenager, be the teenager, guys. Be the teenager. You can kind of enjoy it. It's an enjoyable enough story, I guess. I think the part that got me the most, honestly, regarding, like, 90s nostalgia was the main character, Lizzie, had a boyfriend named Kevin, who had recently moved from Shadyside. I have no idea what fucking state this is supposed to be in. I'm going to say Shadyside, Oregon, because that seems like it's pretty fucking far away from Alabama. Yeah. This boy's father apparently is in the army or something, and his father got reassigned or some shit, and now they're living in Alabama. So these kids originally were dating over the phone, but long distance back in the day, back before international kind of turned into our long distance and home phones kind of became obsolete. Back in the day, long distance was really expensive, so they stopped dating over the phone and started, get this, dating via snail mail. These bitches were sending fucking letters back and forth every day. I don't even want to know how goddamn many jobs this kid had to have been working just to afford stamps to be sending a letter every couple of days to his girlfriend. Because, I mean, even in the 90s, like, stamps weren't that expensive. Like, I think they were, like, a quarter or some shit at this point. But, you know, in 90s money to a 90s teenager, that could be a lot of money. Because, I mean, the minimum wage was only, like, $5 up until, like, mid-2000s. And I'm pretty sure it was even lower in the 90s. So, I mean, shit, guys. I laughed really heartily at that, and it's not often that I actually laugh at stupid shit like that, but, I mean, I laugh at stupid shit like that, but I mean, I don't generally laugh really hard at stupid shit like that, unless it catches me off guard. But that was just hilariously nostalgic, and I was like, how could anybody manage that? And, like, then my second thought was literally, girl, you know he's cheating on you. And then my third thought was, girl, why are you even bothering with this when you clearly have crushes on, like, half the goddamn basketball team or baseball team or whatever fucking pointless ass sport we're supposed to believe is actually important in Shadyside this time? Because the only books where it actually seems to matter what sports they play at all are the cheerleader trilogy, quote unquote trilogy, which I think is actually like 2 or 3 trilogies now. But blah. Yeah. I don't know. I digress. I wanted to say more, but I really don't remember what the hell else I wanted to say. I'm thinking I'm going to keep up the spooky theme and do something else. Possibly Stine next week, possibly Christopher Pike. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say. This format is probably going to stay with us through the end of October, as I said at the beginning. And at the beginning of December, I should be back to showing y'all my pretty face. Okay, I'm done. I hope you guys liked this rambling, quote-unquote, review of The Prom Queen by RL Stine, in which I really just kind of bitched about the nostalgic aspects of old Fear Street books. Yeah. That's pretty much it, guys. I will hopefully see you guys next Wednesday. If not, it'll probably be Saturday. Peace.